The following is a Spirit Street production.
All right, this is Big 12 Insiders. We are at Big 12 Media Days. Brien Hanley with Cole Carmody. We are here today. We're going to talk to you a little bit about Brett Yormark. Some of his remarks, I don't know, Cole, some of these things that he said, we've been talking about it previously on some other shows, but we'll take a deep dive into what he said and try to make some sense of it. This is the Big 12 Insiders.
Welcome to the Big 12 Insiders, your Big 12 sports show, presented by Synergy Financial Partners. Now let's go to booming North Texas, home of Studio 73. Here's your host, Brien Hanley.
All right, welcome again, everybody. This is Big 12 Insiders. This is Brien Hanley with Cole Carmody from GoPowercat. Cole, first off, how are you doing, man? How are you enjoying being at Big 12 Media Days? This is my first Big 12 Media Day.
Yeah, so I feel like I should be asking you that question. This is my fourth Big 12 Media Days, and Brien, this is your first.
Yes,
but this is everybody's first in Vegas,
right?
I mean, it is completely different.
Absolutely.
Than your home state of Texas. I mean, first of all, the heat, it's 120
degrees.
Oh my
goodness.
People have been talking about it. And, I made the comment earlier, we're inside of this dome stadium, but you can still kind of feel the sun.
Yeah, you can.
It's still pretty warm.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. But we could be outside. It could be worse. We got off the plane and we instantly started cooking. Right. So, but let's dive into this a little bit. So Brett Yormark, he made some interesting comments today, and we're going to kind of break some of those down. The first one being about private equity. We've talked about it on the show before, me and Fitz and, some other people that we've had on the show. But today it was kind of definitive, Cole, where he basically said, yes, private equity is going to be a part of the Big 12 and sooner than later.
Yeah, it was interesting, right? Because he talked about it. I mean, this has been something that's been floated out there, within the last month or so.
Yes.
And I mean, there was a few questions asked about it, not just one, there was multiple. And I think somebody said, just to clarify, this is what you're saying. And really, I mean, without saying it, he did say that private equity will be in college sports, we need to be at the forefront of that.
That's correct.
He didn't say that he was going to necessarily, announce that the Big 12 had entered any partnership or anything like that. But without saying it, it to me anyway sounded like, hey, the Big 12 has taken initiative in so many other things.
Right.
Sounds like they want to be the first conference to really.
Yes. And I think that's part of it, Cole. I think that's the reasoning behind what he said is because, look, the Big 12, as we all know, it runs reputation-wise behind the Big 10 and the SEC. Mm-hmm. To get ahead of everything and to even try to put yourself on an even playing field when it comes to money with each particular school, diving into private equity is part of it. Now, people hate the private equity sector of it because a lot of people, they think about it as, okay, private equity comes in, they buy in, and then you use up all those resources, and then you need more, and then you got to buy in, and before you know it, they own 51% of your company, and then you're selling you off for parts.
Right.
I don't think that is, number one, I know that's not the Big 12's plan. But secondly, I don't believe that is what the Big 12 is interested in doing. They're interested in, okay, yes, we want to get on the same type of playing field, when it comes to money and that sort of thing. And again, he talked about it creeping into other sports. And if it's going to creep into other sports, it's going to get into college football. Yeah. Why not be out in front of that first?
It's almost like, to use a K-State analogy, when Bill Snyder, when everybody was zigging, he was zagging and going after the junior college recruits, right? Well, it feels like that's what Brett Yormark has done. I mean, he talked about it with Big 12 Mexico, which another thing I thought was really interesting.
Correct.
Pivoting from that, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But, the Big 12 has to find ways to be different.
Yes.
And if they want to stay competitive in this ever-changing landscape, then I feel like this is something that if Brett Yormark believes this is a good idea, personally, I'm behind it because he has not done anything to change my opinion or lower my opinion of him handling this conference. No. He's done an outstanding job. And I know there was some pushback when this report came out a while ago, but, listening to him today, it sounds like that he's really firm in this decision. And if it does indeed happen, it's going to be because he truly does believe it's in the conference's best interest.
Yes, absolutely. That's the one thing you can always say about Brett Yormark. He is looking for whatever is in the best interest of his conference. He wants to make sure that he puts them in a position to succeed. Mm-hmm. And you couldn't always say that about previous Big 12 commissioners. You just couldn't. I don't want to mention any names. We don't need to go down that road. But you couldn't always say that. Well, he's out here in front just saying, look, I understand the challenges that come with that. And we're going to talk about some of these challenges after we take our first break here of some things that he did take a leap at, Cole. And it sounds like they took a shot at it and it didn't work and he pulled back. And I just think as far as a commissioner and that standpoint, he's very good at trying to be progressive and move forward.
Yep.
But if it doesn't work, okay, that's fine. Let's pivot. Let's go a different direction. And it seems like with this private equity thing, I think he understands, look, no, it's full court press when it comes to this. And everybody needs to be involved because if we get left behind, look what happened to Pac-12.
Yep.
I'm not saying they needed private equity, but maybe they did.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
But they got left behind and we saw what happened to them. I know he doesn't want that to happen to the Big 12.
If it doesn't work, he's going to do something else.
Absolutely.
Right. That's really what it comes down to. And again, it was fascinating to listen because I don't know if that was necessarily going to be a major topic of his, meeting with the media. And to me, that's the number one story is what it kind of developed into that.
Yes, absolutely. So we're going to take a quick break here from one of our sponsors, Synergy Financial Partners. We will be right back again to dive in a little bit more on what Brett Yormark had to say at Big 12 Media Days. This is the Big 12 Insiders. We'll be right back.
We'll be right back after these messages from our sponsors.
At Synergy Financial Partners, the vision is to build the world's largest consumer financial education and empowerment company. Synergy doesn't just offer you a financial plan. At Synergy, the goal is to help you find your best financial future. Learn more at synergyfinancial.com.
Welcome back to the show. Let's return to Studio 73.
All right, welcome back to Big 12 Insiders again. This is Brien Hanley here with Cole Carmody. So, Cole, we heard Brett Yormark, some of the things that he had to say today. And one of the things that caught my attention immediately was someone asked him specifically about a basketball deal, a basketball television deal. And we had heard all the rumors out there and everything that had been said about them possibly getting TBS involved and somebody else involved. We just saw the Big East sign a basketball deal, but that's all the Big East is basketball, outside of Olympic sports. But that's what the Big East is. Well, he basically said today, Cole, no, that's not going to work. And to me, it seems like he may have been looking for it. He may have asked for it. He may have been trying to get a deal, but it sounds like for whatever reason that is not on the agenda right now. And he basically said, we are good. And I think his words were, we're good until 2030.
Yeah. It's just strange, right? Like in the landscape of college sports, in today's landscape of college sports, 5 years, 6 years is an eternity.
Yes.
Right. Like,
yes.
I mean, who would have thought, 6 years ago, we'd be in this position with the way that college sports looks today. But as far as the basketball deal goes, first of all, I thought it was interesting that somebody asked him that question.
Correct. It's football media.
Right.
Days.
Football
it's
media
wild.
days. But this is what we do in the media. We come up with these things and who cares if we're not supposed to be talking about basketball, we're going to ask him that question. It goes back to what we were talking about the last segment. Right. Maybe he felt like a basketball only deal would help the conference.
Correct.
They weren't able to get it done. So he just said, okay, well, then we're not going to worry about it.
Correct.
I'm not going to sit here and waste my time and resources on something that's not going to work.
That's right.
And so I think that as cool as it would be to have a basketball only deal, because I do think it would help the conference a lot. Mm-hmm. I mean, what you have with ESPN and Fox, you have to find a way to maximize your viewing capabilities.
Correct.
And I think that they're starting to do more of that. He's talked about bridging the gap between the old generations and the new generations. That was another thing he talked about a lot today.
Yes, he did.
I think you can do that with these networks by how you brand yourself.
Correct.
And we saw that branding advertisement today, which was pretty cool as well.
Yes.
Yeah, the basketball deal was another one of those things that kind of came out of left field, but it's definitely worth mentioning because it was a very notable answer.
Well, the thing for me, Cole, that it caught my eye is that he really leaned into the Fox and the ESPN partnership.
Yes.
We've heard all the rumors and everything about ESPN maybe not wanting to re-up, not wanting to be a part of the conference and all this kind of stuff. We've heard all those rumors. Well, he leaned into that and thought they were an integral part of the Big 12 moving forward. And I think that for me personally, I thought that was the key in why this basketball deal isn't going through. I think ESPN kind of looked at it and said, well, look how good the Big 12 was last year. And look who's coming into the conference now. It's only going to enhance itself. Now, Do we need a better showing in the NCAA tournament? Yes, it goes without saying. But having said that, I just believe that I think ESPN and Fox, especially Fox, I say ESPN a lot, but I think Fox that is a big key here. I think they can enhance the brand even more, having even more games on. But you're right, the TV deal, it's not that basketball TV deal. Now, again, anything can happen. Look, we've been around this college crazy sports world. Everything has happened in the last 4 or 5 years. So I'm not saying that it won't happen or it couldn't happen, but as of right now, I don't see there being any time soon that a TV deal is coming about.
No, and it really is dependent upon how ESPN wants to market the Big 12, right? I mean, do you want to put the games on ESPN Plus and have them scheduled out way in advance like we've seen?
Right.
Or do you maybe want to take a different kind of approach to how they do it with football? Sure, you have your game times, you have your dates set, but hey, this game's going to be at 11 o'clock. Instead of having it on ESPN Plus, it might be a matchup between two top 10 teams. Let's put it on ESPN.
Yes.
That seems like a better idea.
Absolutely.
And so as much as the Big 12 wants to control that, it's a lot of times it's out of their hands, and maybe that's why they were navigating for a new basketball deal. But I do think now Brett Yormark, having had the experience, can go to ESPN, can go to Fox and say, I know we have an agreement, but let's see if we can maybe find a way to make some other things work. Because, again, I just keep going back to this. He is bought in on the future of this conference.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, a better deal, I think, is what he can possibly go to them and talk about. But as part of that is also going to come with the teams holding their end of the bargain. And look, we can talk about how good the Big 12 was, and it was far and away the best conference in basketball last year. But most people just care about the tournament, Cole, and we got to perform better in the tournament. So hopefully that happens this year. Speaking of that, as far as best conference, we're going to lean into something after we take our final break here. And Brett Yormark said something today it's going to get a lot of play around the country. We will be right back, let you know what he said and what our thoughts are once we hear one word from our sponsor, Synergy Financial Partners. We'll be right back.
We'll be right back after these messages from our sponsors.
At Synergy Financial Partners, the mission is to change the way Americans plan for their financial future. Synergy doesn't just offer you a financial plan. At Synergy, the goal is to help you find your best financial future. Learn more at synergyfinancial.com.
Welcome back to the show. Let's return to Studio 73.
All right, welcome back to Big 12 Insiders. This is our final segment. So, Cole, we heard something today. Again, we're talking about Brett Yormark, and we heard something today that I think was telling. It's going to get a ton of play around the country. It's going to be on network. People are going to be talking about this. Brett Yormark came out pretty early in Big 12 Media Days and said that the Big 12, as far as football, was the deepest conference in the country. And he didn't say it once, Cole. He said it twice.
He did.
To make sure that he emphasized that point. And, and I thought about it for a minute. We recorded this about an hour or so after he spoke. I'm not sure he's lying.
Yeah.
I'm not sure he's wrong. And I know there's going to be a lot of people out there that say, oh, you're crazy. And I'm like, if you just actually dig in and take a deep dive into what the Big 12 is versus the other two power conferences, and we're not even, you could throw the ACC in there, but I think everybody knows what the ACC kind of is. You just go from top to bottom. Is he wrong, Cole, that the Big 12 is not the deepest? I think he's right.
Yeah, I think he is too. And there's been some ratings and some ranking systems out there that show the watchability of games. I saw something on social media today, and there wasn't a single Big 12 game in the top 25. And
correct.
To me, when I look at that, right, like what makes the NFL so interesting is that any team can win any single given game. And that's what it feels like in the Big 12.
Yes.
Like, would it really surprise anyone if the team who's picked to finish last in the conference finishes in the middle part of the conference and makes a bowl game? No.
Correct.
Would it surprise anyone if the team that's picked to finish third in the conference finishes last? No.
Correct.
Because any team can beat any team. And I think he leaned into that a lot today, which was very, very, I think that was a great idea, because that is what this conference is trying to be branded on for football is, hey, every game matters. Did he say the road to Arlington?
Yes.
Was what the slogan was going to be for the Big 12 championship. It's going to be great because you don't have Texas, you don't have Oklahoma, you don't have those two teams that are always picked at the top of the conference.
Right.
The newcomer Utah was picked to finish first. K-State was picked to finish second, which, by the way, picked to finish second with no single player on the all-conference team.
That's wild.
Crazy. But Utah picked to finish first, a newcomer, and then you have interesting Colorado, who we've heard some of these other coaches bring up. I think that this is going to be the deepest conference in America. I'm excited to watch the games because they are just going to be fun to follow, because there's going to be 4-win teams who you think are horrible find a way to beat teams who have won 7 or 8 games
Absolutely.
at the end of the season. And so it's just it's going to be one of those years in the Big 12.
Absolutely. Now, the one thing that I think, and I know we've brought this up several times, is it would hurt the conference if somebody finishes 8-4 and they win the conference.
Right.
That would be a problem, if the conference cannibalizes itself. You can't do that in football like you can do in basketball. Just you can't lose that many games and then that be the winner of your conference and be considered good. You just can't do that.
I mean, I would push back on that a little bit, unless that team would then find a way to win a playoff game.
Now, that's different.
Right?
That's
Completely
right. That's
different.
totally different.
Because that shows maybe, hey,
Absolutely.
the Big 12 was a lot better and the champion took some
That's
lumps,
right.
Which is why the 12-team playoff, and there was
important.
a question about the 14-team playoff today, which I was like, well, we haven't even had the 12-team playoff yet. But again, it just goes to show you, if your team can be battle tested in the regular season by playing tough games week in and week out, like the winner of this conference will do, it really does set you up nicely to go on a little postseason run.
Yeah, it does. Like I said, I think the conference is going to test everybody in it. And he did make a point to say that, basically by November, it's just going to be a fight to the finish.
Yeah.
And I liked that part of it. Every single week matters. That was the key. That was another slogan, is that every week matters. And he's right. Every week is going to matter, Cole, because it just the conference in itself. There's look, I don't want to call out names, but I will. There's no Vanderbilts in the Big 12. There's just no Vanderbilts. You can talk about some of the lower teams like a Houston if you want to, per se, or whoever you want to mention. Those teams are going to be capable of beating middle-of-the-road teams. And that doesn't mean that the middle-of-the-road team isn't any good. It just means the quality of this conference. I think what would help is if 2 or 3 teams separated themselves, go win the conference, and then 1 or 2 of them, at minimum 1. But if 2 of them were able to go win a playoff game, then we're really talking. But to get back to Brett Yormark's point, like I said, I think he's 100% right, Cole. I don't think there's any doubt in my mind that the Big 12 is the deepest. You don't want to say the best, I understand.
Yeah.
But as far as deepest, absolutely, I don't think there's any question.
Well, he also said that he believes the Big 12 will get 2 teams in the playoffs.
He sure did.
And of course, like, you expect the commissioner to have full faith in the conference.
Correct.
It was interesting that he came out and said that.
Yes.
Because I know there's been a lot of national media and national talking heads who obviously don't give the Big 12 any credit, and understandable, right? They haven't seen this new conference. But I think for those of us who cover this conference, who have seen what these teams are capable of doing, I do believe that there will be 2 teams that make the college football playoff from this conference, simply because you are going to be you're going to be battle tested every single week.
Yeah.
And if you can get through that and get on the other side and having won 10 games, you are really going to put yourself in position to make that playoff.
Yes.
We don't know what exactly it's going to look like. I still believe if you are a Power 4 team and you win 10 games, you deserve a shot to make the playoffs.
Absolutely. I don't think there's any question about that. I think the Big 12 has earned the reputation that no matter what, if whoever the top 2 teams are, as long as they got 8, I wouldn't even say 8. If they got 9 wins, get 9 wins, you go 9-3 and you finish second, you got to get into the playoff. I think the Big 12 has earned that right, and would be a travesty. Having said that, we saw what they did to Florida State last year, so who knows what'll happen. So, well, I appreciate everybody tuning in and joining us. Remember, follow, like, subscribe. Thank you, Cole, for joining in and joining us today at Big 12 Media Days. Like I said, I'm having a ball, people. This is my first time being here. I'm having an absolute blast. So I appreciate everybody that has tuned in. Remember, leave those comments, all that good stuff. We will be back tomorrow from Big 12 Media Days. This is the Big 12 Insiders.
This has been a GoPowercat.com and Spirit Street production. Please support this show by subscribing to this YouTube channel or follow us on your favorite podcast platform.